You can draw this in Procreate. You can create this city skyline in Procreate. Yes, you can. You don't need any experience with drawing or with Procreate at all. I will be guiding you through every single step. We'll be using some brushes that are already in the Procreate app, plus some brushes from my free treasure chest, which you can get access to through freefromflow.com. I have actually added some brand new brushes from my new City Skyline Creator brush pack. So if you enjoy creating city skylines, then you might want to check out that brush pack because it's full of buildings, skylines, street lanterns, fences, airplanes, and a lot more. So you can use them to vary endlessly. But the brushes we'll be using for this tutorial are completely free, just like the color palette, which I have linked in the description in case you want to use the same colors as I'm using during this tutorial. So once you have the colors and the brushes, what you need is a canvas of 2300 pixels by 3000 pixels and a color profile set to sRGB. Now, if you struggle with setting up a canvas, then be sure to check out the links in the description because I have made a list of very handy and short tutorials in which I explain the basics of Procreate. But now let's get started with this tutorial. Go and grab your pencil or your finger and let's fill our background. Let's go to the layer menu and use layer 1 and fill it with the first color in our color palette. Let's just drag the circle onto our canvas and then let's go and grab the soft brush under airbrushing and we'll set it to the next color. It's the second color in the first row. Let's set the opacity of the brush to 80%. And let's make the brush nice and big. Let's go for 50%. And let's go over the lower half. And just make sure that the top area stays dark. And if you want to soften this gradient, then you can go to the magic wand here at the top and use Gaussian blur. Slide your pen or finger to the right. For instance, to 30% to soften this gradient, and then just tap the magic wand again. Now we are going to drop in a skyline. We are going to do that on a new layer, so go to the layer menu and tap the plus for a new layer. And then for the brushes, go to the treasure chest brush pack and use the Skyline Brush. For the color, we are going to use the third color in the first row. The opacity of the brush is set to 100% and let's set the size to 45%. And now let's just tap on the screen and add some of these buildings. And it's okay if some of the buildings overlap a little bit, just try to tap about 3 times to fill your horizon. And then go and make a new layer by tapping the plus and grab the next color, the fourth color in the first row. And let's tap again and fill the area from left to right. Of course, you can use the move tool. That's the little arrow here at the top. Make sure that you turn snapping on. We can turn magnetics off. And we can move it upwards just a little bit like that. And then just tap the arrow again. Now let's make a new layer again by tapping the plus in the layer menu and grab the next color. It's the fifth color in the first row. Now let's make the brush a little bit bigger. Let's go for 55% and tap again. Now we'll go to the selection tool. That's the S-shaped ribbon here. Then select rectangle and turn on color fill. You'll know it's turned on if it's blue. And select this lower part to fill that area as well. Now we are going to add a little bit of mist. Let's first go to the back layer, layer 2, to make sure that the mist we are going to paint, that it's not going to show up outside of the buildings. We are going to tap the layer and turn on alpha lock. And for our brush, we are going back to the soft brush under airbrushing. And for the color, we'll use this second color in the second row. And now let's just glaze over the lower half to add a subtle gradient. Let's do the same thing for the next layer. Layer 3, tap it, turn on alpha lock. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's go for 25% and glaze over the lower half again. And you can see that now the buildings get separated a bit more. And let's do the same thing for the front. Again, let's turn on alpha lock just to be sure. Let's make the brush even bigger. Let's go for 35% and glaze over that lower area. Now let's add even more buildings. Let's make a new layer on top by tapping the plus. And for the brush, let's go back to the treasure chest brush pack. Now there were already some buildings in the treasure chest brush pack. Building 5 is new. Now let's start with building 2 and grab this 5th color in the first row. The opacity of the brush is at 100% and let's set the size to 45%. Now let's just tap here. And if you don't like the placement, you can just use the move tool, move it around. Let's place it about here and then tap the arrow again. Now let's make another layer, tap the plus and grab another building brush. Let's use building 3. Opacity is at 100% and the size is at 58%. Now let's tap here and then again move it by using the move tool and place it about here. Once you're happy with these two, you can merge them together in the layer menu and create another layer on top by tapping the plus. Now we are going to switch to the darkest color. It's the 6th color in the first row. And let's add some more buildings. Let's start with that new one, building 5. I have the opacity set to 100% and the size is at 80%. And let's tap here and then just move it by using the move tool. Want it to be a little bit smaller. Do make sure that you have it set to uniform. If you use the option to make it smaller, just drag the handle and place it on the side around here. Then tap the arrow again and let's add even more buildings. First make a new layer because that way you will be able to move the building around without moving the other buildings. Let's grab this building 1. Opacity is at 100%. Size is at 40%. Let's just tap it in there. Use the move tool. Let's flip it horizontal. Make it a little bit smaller. And place it pretty low. Right in front of that other building. Making it a little bit bigger again. So we get something like this. Then tap the arrow again and make a new layer for another building. Let's go for building number 3. Opacity is at 100%. The size is at 58%. Just tap, use the move tool. Perhaps we can make it a little bit bigger and place it around here. And continue adding buildings, each on their own layer. Let's use building 2. Tap on the screen, move it around, place it a bit lower over here. Then for another building, a new layer. Let's use building number 4. Tap it, move it around, perhaps make it a bit smaller. Like that. And I want to fill this little gap over here. So let's use the selection tool, again set to rectangle and color fill turned on. And let's just make a rectangle here. Now I'm happy with the placement of these buildings. So let's merge these dark layers. So that's layer 6 to layer 10. Pinch them together. And now we have all our building layers. Now let's start adding a moon to our scene. Let's go to layer 1 first and then tap the plus for a new layer. For the brush, we are going to use the monoline brush, which you can find under calligraphy. And for the color, we are going to use this first color in the second row. The opacity of the brush is at 100% and the size is at 20%. And now let's draw a circle. Just draw a circle, hold your pen in place, and then tap one finger on the screen to make it snap to a perfectly round circle. Then drag in a color to fill your circle. And then let's go to the move tool, go to snapping, make sure that snapping is turned on. And now place it in the center of your canvas. You'll know that it's the center if you see that vertical orange line. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Just make sure that you have uniform turned on when you make it smaller. And go for something like this. Then let's duplicate it. Just slide to the left on the layer, tap duplicate. Then go to the bottom layer, tap the N, and turn the opacity to 15%. Then let's make it bigger by going to the move tool. Make sure you have it set to uniform. Drag the handle to make it bigger. And then place it in the center. Then duplicate this layer again. Go to the bottom one. As you can see, the opacity is already at 15%. Then use the move tool and make it bigger. Again, place it in the center. And duplicate it one more time. Go for the bottom one. Make it bigger and place it in the center again. Now let's also add some stars. Let's make another layer. First select layer 1, then tap the plus. And for the brush, let's go to the luminance brushes and use the light pen brush. I have the opacity of this brush set to 100% and the size is set to 40%. But the harder you press with a pressure sensitive pen, the bigger your star will become. So try to vary the amount of pressure you use a little bit to make a nice variation of stars around your moon. Just fill the sky and dab in random places. And with your other hand, you can actually hit that thumbs up button or hit subscribe if you aren't already. I thought this would be a great time. I thought this would be a great moment to do that. So vary the amount of pressure and fill the sky with stars. Now, since it's getting kind of late, let's also add some lights to these buildings. Let's make a layer on top of layer 6 by tapping the plus. And then for the brush, let's go back to the treasure chest brushes and use the Windows brush. For the color, we are going to use this color over here, the second color in the second row. The opacity of this brush is at 100% and let's set the size to 50% and make a line over here. Draw it down, hold your pen in place, and then tap one finger on the screen to make sure that it's a perfectly vertical line. Now you can move it around by using the move tool. Place it about here. Now let's duplicate this layer. Drag to the left, tap duplicate, then go to the move tool again. Go to snapping, turn on magnetics and turn snapping off. And I'll pull this to the right. And then tap the arrow again. Now let's make some more windows. Let's do that on a new layer so we are able to move them. Let's add some windows on this building. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen. And we can also go to the move tool, turn uniform, set it to freeform and use this handle to make the shape of the windows different. Then tap the arrow again and make a new layer for even more windows. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, 40%, and add some windows here. And this way you can vary with this brush endlessly. Let's also add some windows here. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen. Then make a new layer again. If you are running out of layers, you can actually merge the window layers that you like. Then tap the plus for a new layer. Now let's make the brush a little bit bigger. Let's set it to 70%. Now make a row of windows here. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen, and then go to the move tool. Make sure it's set to freeform and pull this handle to change the shape of the windows. Then go to the layer menu, drag to the left, tap duplicate, then go to the move tool again, the little arrow, and drag this to the right so we get even more windows. And then just tap the arrow again. Now let's merge all of these layers, these window layers. And let's also add a layer of windows to this layer with buildings. Let's tap the plus for a new layer. Let's make the brush smaller. Let's go for 35% and add some windows here. Draw a line, hold your finger on your screen, and then go to the move tool and make this a little bit broader. Change the shape of the windows like this, and then tap the arrow again. Now we have quite some windows, we have quite some lights, but not everything is at the office working. There would be some lights turned off. So let's do that now. Let's go to layer 12 first, tap the layer and turn on mask. Now we can mask parts of the windows. We are going to do that by using pure black. So make sure that you have pure black. And then we are going to use the selection tool, set to rectangle and to color fill. Now if we go to the windows and make selections, whenever we make a selection, we block a part of these windows. And try to do it randomly. You can start with vertical selections, for instance, and then later make horizontal selections as well. Try to find a way to make it a bit random, to make it appear random. Also make sure that you remove some of these windows on the sides. You can block quite a lot to make it look more realistic, because not everyone is here and not all the lights are turned on. So just these rectangular selections. Now let's do the same over here. Removing quite some of these, removing quite a lot of windows. Something like this. Then we have these windows. They are a little bit smaller, so you might need to zoom in. And if you have removed too many windows, then you can just switch to white, to the color white. But first you'll have to go out of the selection and then start painting or using the selection tool with white, and you can paint back in some of the windows. So whenever you use black on a layer mask, you will be blocking parts, and whenever you use white, you will make objects appear again. So it's like non-destructive erasing, actually. Remove some windows over here. And then finally, for this one, trying to make it look random. Don't forget the windows on the sides. Of course, you don't have to copy me exactly. You don't have to make the exact same selections here. Just do what feels good. And turn off these lights. Now let's get out of the selection menu and see what it looks like. Just tap the S shape ribbon and the lights are turned off. I can see I messed it up a little bit over here. You can just go back to the selection tool, make more of these selections and block these parts. And then tap the S shape ribbon again. That's better. Now we just need to go to this layer as well. That's layer 13 over here. Add a layer mask. Go to the selection tool. And let's turn off some windows. Or some lights actually. Let's turn them off here as well. Something like this. And then tap the S shape ribbon again. And that's how you can create a city skyline super easy. Remember, if you want to play around and create even more city skylines, then do be sure to check out my new City Skyline Creator brush pack. I'm sure you'll have loads of fun with all the elements that are in there. For now, I want to thank you for watching and I will see you next time for the next tutorial.